Hello and welcome to another episode of The Zoo. Today we're going to talk about asset management, or rather the disrespected asset management. Something that befuddles me a lot considering we're heading into a world filled with drones, Internet of Things, and smart machines. We can't even keep track of our own laptops. Good luck with that. Here helping me understand what the future holds is Jeff Maloney in Los Angeles. Hi, Jeff.
Hello.
And Chris Rixon in Wales. Let's start with you, Chris. Why hasn't the IT management operations in general embraced asset management? They started to take on change management. They started to understand that, but they're leaving asset management like, some dirty stepchild out there. We've been thinking about service desk suites no longer necessarily including asset management. That's a separate component almost, or at least thinking of that. Why is that?
I think for many organizations it falls into the category of too hard. I think that if I think back, and I will readily admit it's been a while since I was part of a live service management team, but asset management role really wasn't the most popular role that people were thrusting their hands in the air to sign up for. Not because it wasn't important, but it was pretty challenging. And I think that, and that was back then, right? That was back in the early 90s when it was relatively manageable from a scale and scope point of view. I think that from a number of organizations these days, the scope is very intimidating. That's one factor. I think the other confusing factor is, given that a lot of the goals of asset management, as opposed to configuration management, center around financial models for all kinds of infrastructure, some people are putting that in the category of something that the finance team really should be taken care of. So that's something else that you see. And then, of course, there are organizations who are very, very good at it. They just seem to be somewhat thin on the ground.
So some people still think that this is part of the CFO's office to deal with.
Yeah, I've definitely seen that. I've definitely seen organizations who are quite happy to track things that are live in configurations and track them as configuration items, to use ITIL terminology, but not necessarily that interested in modeling them as a corporate asset and everything that means. But of course, there are those organizations, as I said, who have actually done that fairly successfully. But it's pretty ambitious. If you look at asset management in its full scope, it's a pretty ambitious thing to take on.
Yeah, no, it's I agree. There's the asset management, the financial impact of asset management, and then there's sort of the inventory and the configuration item side of the house. And as Chris points out, resources. I just think there's so many other things going on within the IT organization that asset management just basically falls into. Okay, just get a list of inventory items, and if you're lucky, manage the configurations based upon those items. It's a timing and a resource thing, in my opinion, not necessarily a want.
And so my question then is, it seems to be poorly understood as a discipline almost, because we are looking at an average workplace or an average operation side that has more technology available that has to be mapped, and dependencies need to be understood, and services need to be squeezed out of this, and so on and so forth. You said it's hard to do, but you can learn new things. You can overcome that thing. I still don't see the idea that it's hard to do or that it's so spread out, as Jeff's pointed out. Why is it people putting some people on there? Why are we not seeing what I think I see, that we have to have a complete control of our CMDBs in our databases? The resistance that exists today, why does that linger?
Complexities is one. You just mentioned there's discovery and dependency mapping. There's understanding all the configuration items, the inventory, and then there's the financial impact. So asset management covers a wide range of items, and that could cover a wide range of individuals within an organization. And I think that sort of longer term or bigger view strategy is sometimes difficult for an organization when you just have way too many things going on. It's not that you can't do it. You can do all those components from discovery to endpoint management, But because there are bits and pieces sort of scattered throughout, and because there's sometimes multiple technologies involved and a lot of impact into the business, it's just, unfortunately, I see it as a secondary item that some organizations take on.
Chris, what would you recommend to organizations who have some interest in improving their asset management?
Well, I think that's a very interesting point. I strongly suspect from here on out, organizations are going to be expected to improve their performance in this regard. And I think that the rate at which technology is being absorbed into every aspect of the organization. We hear about digitization rates, and we know about what that means. From a, we focus on all the exciting aspects of what digitization means, and all the crazy new things that you can do, and business models that we won't even recognize in a couple of years. And that's the exciting part. The implications of it, from a management point of view, are pretty profound, I think. Mm-hmm. And I strongly suspect that if all of a sudden you find yourself responsible for a huge percentage of the corporate assets, if more and more of them are technology driven, you better have a good account of them over and above basic inventory and configuration management skills. You better have a pretty good handle on how what your return on those assets is. So I think everyone's going to have to get focused on it and have to learn or relearn how to do it. But I think the scale of the challenge is about to absolutely explode.
Do you think there's an area that people are going to have to focus on? You seem to lean towards the financial impact of it all. You think that's sort of where people are going to start?
I think that's the gap at the moment, right? You rightly said that a lot of people have got a pretty good handle on some kind of inventory, at least the most important parts, and there are organizations who've correctly made the connection between those and the configurations that they're running, what the dependencies are, at least for the absolutely critical infrastructure, but have somehow either left the financial part to finance or written it off as being a bit too difficult. Not, like I said, not exclusively, but I think for certainly a lot of organizations that I talk to, they've taken it so far. They've taken it as far as it is useful operationally speaking, and not really looked at that broader picture. And I strongly suspect that they are going to be required to have a much better handle on the whole life cycle of an asset and all its attributes moving forward.
Now, I find it interesting that my luggage, my smart luggage, can tell me where it is, but IT can't tell me where my laptop is. So I think we will catch up as needed, has always been the case in enterprise IT. So I appreciate you taking the time talking about asset management and why we're disrespecting it, especially as we're becoming more technology dependent. So the rest of you out there, take care, be safe. Bye-bye.